I think, Jonas, it's fair to say I should do your introduction, and I should have memorized the introduction by heart by now because we introduced you so many times on this event. You've presented before, but you're probably by far one of the most experienced presenters that we had. So your experience working with SAS goes all the way back to 1980s, I believe.
Yeah, 1986. Yeah, when I was on the mainframe only, I guess.
Exactly. So that's a huge amount of experience all in one place. And today you're going to be talking to us about making sense of PROC tabulate, one of the more common features in the SAS.
Right. Let me just share my screen. I guess hopefully this works.
Should do.
Okay, so you can get to see that, right?
Yep, that works. Perfect. Over to you.
Okay. So I copied this into the presentation. It looked pretty good. I got a blue color. So basically what we're going to talk about is how you can use PROC format and tabulate together and generate numerous report examples. And we're also going to cover ODS to enhance presentation of reports. When I started looking at PROC tabulate, it looked very confusing. And so I just went to the PROC means way of doing things and cutting and pasting into Excel. Though luckily I had a contractor, a consultant, who showed me how to interpret the code and how to generate the code for tabular reports. So after you look at this presentation, this is a presentation was half of the session I presented, training session at NESUG in 2017. And so I took most of it from here, but I've been presenting tabulate this, even the title of the paper a number of times. There was one case where the SAS monospace font didn't copy into the white paper. And some company called me up and said they're doing some work, consulting work for a bank, and the bank wanted this company to produce this report, but with the code looked like Cleon stuff, and so I just sent him over the code. And the company who was asking this question was SAS. But I guess SAS do stuff in C and whatnot, and I just use SAS for a lot of my questions. Again, one of the reasons why it's kind of complicated was that it was a syntax that was used in the Bureau of Labor Statistics, which was even older than SAS. So SAS sort of taken the concepts and loaded it into SAS and called it PROC tabulate. And I've trained a lot of folks, and many people will get so addicted to it that they'll even do tabulate when PROC frequent work. Okay, so this is what we're going to generate as the final output. This is a tabular report. These are 2 campaigns, different quarters, and these are different offers, a really good offer, an okay offer. And then we're looking each, how many pieces were mailed, what was the percent of the mailing for that particular campaign, the response rates, the responders, and we were looking at the highlighting using PROC format. So anything above like 5% should get a green. If you're less than 5%, you get a red. Now, I was actually concerned about this when I'm presenting this because this 5% should have not been turned red, but when we looked at the actual results, it's rounding to 5%. So that's why I ended up in the red category. And then the yellow category key is not 10%, but it's getting close to 10%. And basically what I do is create the simulated data. And basically I like to use formats a lot. There are 2 different offers, A and B. Then we'll have the value, I guess, of the offers. If it's low to 0.1, you're a responder, otherwise you're not. If you're low to 0.5, you're also a responder to the B offer. And then these are the values for the mean of the balance transfer that the person is accepting, 6,500 versus 5,400. 6,500 is better because it's a better rate that they're getting. And what I started using the stream it function, the call stream it function. I used to use ran uni and ran normal, but Wicklund made a presentation or a blog statement that you're better off using this call stream it, where ran uni and the other ways of doing things are somewhat antiquated. And so here I create 2 campaigns, and I represent like 1 million customers for each of the campaigns. So there's be 2 million accounts in this data set. And I do use an interesting put n function, where the put n, I'm taking a random number here, uniform, and I'm the second argument is not a format, it's a variable. So it's going to use the FMTUs as a format. And where's the FMTUs? I already lost it. But and then it takes the best 12. So how many responders are coming in? And then the balance transfer is also calculated with normal distribution. I got really excited when I met Ron Cody for the first time at the New York area SAS user group, and in those days, I don't think there was even PROC. I don't think there was even PowerPoint, because he would come in with a slide, slide carriage, and where he had all his presentation, and he also which includes some pictures of it where he went for a vacation or where he rode his bicycle. And it sort of seemed interesting. He's keeping the customers or the people attending them awake in case it gets pretty boring. So I started following that too. This was a NESUG. This was a Vermont NESUG and Felly left. The last conference they had was in Vermont. This was a SAS level forum in San Antonio, and it was a pretty interesting. The Green Lake and green. Well, the green, they made it green because it was around St. Patrick's Day. All right, so we'll look at some. Again, this was in Maine and NESUG. So I'm going to simulate data. We'll have these 5 variables: the balance transfer, the campaign, the mailed, how many pieces of mail, what was the offer, and A versus B, and also what was the response. So I have a couple of rules. It's sort of like NCIS, but the first rule is don't panic. You need to be in a certain frame of mind to do tabulate code, or even SAS code in general. Usually what I do is I usually relax, meditate, maybe have a cigar and a little bourbon, listen to some jazz. The Byrds is like some of the Pat Metheny fusion music, and have a snack. It could be a beverage or not. I'm not telling people they should drink alcohol or smoke a cigar. This one is, I think it's called Onikaroshi, and it's the language here says it's a demon slayer. So it'll slay your PROC tabulate constraints. Design rule 2 is to design the report on paper. So once you design it on paper, you could then use that results of that paper into generating the PROC tabulate code. So here we're not even going to generate the final design, but we'll look at it this way. We have campaigns, offers, and the mail bases, and the percentage in each campaign, how many responded, the response rate, the average balance transfer per responder, and also we'll look at the average balance transfer per the mail base. And the tabulate syntax is kind of a little confusing, but it does have a class and var statements which are similar to PROC means, a PROC summary. It has a table statement as well, but it's a bit more complicated than a PROC freak table in that the dimensions are separated by commas. And then if you want to use an asterisk, you could use to specify any of the following other conditions: another class variable split, another var variable, a statistic, a format. Class variables are typically categorical variables, and var are numeric values. You could generate a lot of different statistics on those var variables. It's on the next slide. And some people get confused because you got these different less than greater than sign. That's used to define the denominator of a percent or percent sum. They can have equal for format or even a label specification. So there's a lot of stats you can get in there. The usual stuff: the mean, the max, the different percentiles you can request. Just Q1, different medians, and it's nice stuff. So let's take some baby steps when building your first tabulate code. The easiest one to do is just say table and N, and so it'll print out how many records you have. So it's 2 million, and you can put it like asterisk F equals comma 12 or something. And build a code in stages. So we'll look at the campaign by the offer, and we'll look at N mailed and how many responded. So we get this kind of output. This is the old-fashioned output that comes out without, if you don't use ODS. But you got the 2 campaigns, the 2 mailed totals for A, B in this campaign and A, B in this campaign. And the response is over here. There's more people responding for the A offer, which is a better offer. And let's go. I know you notice that the default statistic for var variable is sum, so you don't have to write asterisk sum. But it's sort of annoying to get that sum there, and we'll show you how you can get rid of that sum in a future code. So now, also, I didn't like those these lines and stuff, or so you could say no separation, and the form character is equal to 11 spaces. So that'll sort of format how the table is going to look like in a list output. So it's pretty much the same code, and this is what you get. You don't get this red box around it, but I just put it in the PowerPoint. So let's try an all statement. So all is trying to get a totals. So look at campaign, and then for each offer, we'll report the output, but then get a total for the each for the campaign. And let's see how this stuff looks. And I also put in some formats. So we got a million here, a million there. You can also add an additional all right here. So this comma sort of separates. These are the row components. These are the column components. And I call all here a total. Go back and look at that. So I say all is equal to total as a label in the report. Now I want to add some percentage statistics using a %n. So looking at %n by the denominator is going to offer and also the all totals, and we can make a label for this % mail per campaign. We're also putting a key label here of sum equals blanks. Anytime there's a sum variable or some usage, we're not going to, the sum statement won't show up on the report. So here, we got the sums. There's no sums or no response. No response in the end, like in the previous report. And we've got some additional stuff. Let's try to add some more interesting stuff. I've always included a missing statement in your PROC tabulate, just because you may have missing cases, and you would modify the output when you have a missing case. You would say missed text equals quote space quote. We could say you could put missing in here, and there's a after the whole table is specified, you can put some additional options. RTS is the right side, how many spaces on the right side for the first column, and I put like 25. Row equals float. I always forget what row equals float does, but it's sort of, you could play with including that and then include it to see the differences. I don't know if I did the, not to have it. So here we have, one thing we don't notice so far is there's no percent sign on the percent mailed per campaign. And this is the response rate, which does have the percent because it's a mean of the responders. And so now let's look at the picture format, which a lot of times is complicated. And I'm going to create a picture format, which is I'm going to call PCT. And I'm going to round the result. Typically, we don't have negative percentages, but I'll include it so it'll work for each time I need this percent. And I applied it right here. So I'm going to put in the actual percent mailed, which here didn't have a percent. And now here it has the percent in there. And I have a round, so the round numbers are going to be okay. And some people who didn't know about the round option, and they were very grateful to me when I presented at Pacific Northwest User Group Conference. So now we're going to add some other ratios, and we want to look at the sum of the balance transfers. Oh, but now summing it, dividing it by the total accounts mailed. So now we could do a percent sum over here by mailed, but I don't want to have it multiplied by 100. So what I do here is I say there's going to be a multiplier of 0.01. So the result will, a percent sum will always multiply the result by 100. So I'm saying just back that out. And let's see what happens. Okay, and these are the results by each piece mailed. I don't know why we did it. They're not gonna, we're not gonna get money for, well, we're getting them, I guess, money from each piece of mail we mailed out. Now we gotta be careful with percent. So let's say you wanna look at the actual dollars and cents. You guys in UK may not be interested in that, but I'm including a prefix. Again, the prefix, you could do any kind of numeric stuff and commas and insertions, but if you want to install a prefix like a dollar, you have to specify that and make sure you have the round. And now, one thing you got to be careful is that it didn't work. These numbers should be 650 dot something, because when you look at this calculation, it's already counting and including these decimal point moved over 2 places to the left, and now you're moving it over another two spaces. So the way to handle that is just include a mult equals 1. Seems kind of confusing, but then it'll work. And you get the right results here. So now let's look at some ODS stuff. I always create this macro variable when I'm using ODS, because a lot of times I want to create tab names, and also when I'm generating stuff, I want to make sure I know when I'm done with this particular tab, I can break out of it to go to the next tab. And I got this information from some SAS tech support guy through SASSupport.com. It's just a simple macro. I typically put my macros in compiled macro catalogs, but that'll be a different presentation. So you don't have to put it in the code itself, or you can put it in an auto call catalog or whatever, auto call library. So let's look at some stuff here. So now at ODS Excel, has a lot of different options. Some don't even know what the options are for, but auto filter, I'm not sure where it is. Embed titles, I say yes. Embed footnotes. Zoom, I don't know, 100 may work. Landscape, page height, 100. What, I don't know what that is, but I don't want it centered, so I put center horizontal is no, center vertical is no. And then I want to create an ODS Excel option where I want to create the sheet interval will be none. There'll be no sheet intervals or tab intervals until I break out of it and create a new code like this. So here I want to create a sheet name of data vars. So now, this is interesting. This is going to be all, just totals, and we'll look at other characteristics. And what I also included into here is, I think it was a graphic, piece of graphic, and I gave that instruction to some consultant, and we always included the graphics that the company uses, and they were impressed that they were able to put this graphic in the Excel. But you sometimes have to modify the size of it in Excel, and a lot of times you need some adjustments when you have the Excel to make some additional modifications of the output. For example, like this. So this is you have to see not merge these. There should be two separate columns here as opposed to one block. So this is looking at N offer, and we're getting the stuff that we generated, but now we're using ODS Excel. Now your boss always wants to change things around, so he wants to put offer in rows and campaigns in columns, and then do some different stuff for different things. So let's look at here we got different labels we're putting out. We're having now we want to break out from the previous one, so we're going to include now another ODS Excel. You don't need the other ODS, the large number of lines in the other page, because that's already still in place until you specify ODS Excel close. I don't know why it's over here, but you may want to take it out. And we have a different way of looking at so we're generating various class, and we're doing additional specifications on it, and then we generate by the column variables will be the campaign. They're two different campaigns, and we can see the results on the next page. So we're getting close to what we want to show in the final output. I may be able to get everything in here. So now we have the campaigns up here and everything else listed here. IFSUG was an insurance and finance SAS user group. They actually had the first conference at SAS headquarters, but then it was mostly webinar stuff. But it sort of just closed up, like NESUG and Pacific Northwest SAS user group. And we started getting similar stuff, but in different formats. You can have a lot of different ways of doing things. But now we're going to create some additional stuff. He wants to look at some percentiles. He wants to put some blank rows or columns. So basically what you could do is you create a data set called classes, where you put all the classes you need, and then you want to stick in some missing values. So those missing values can be used as a blank row or a blank column. And so I'm using this, and what we get out of this data set is these campaigns, these offers, and the last offer is last row would be just blanks. And we need some PROC format. So this is another thing we're putting in blanks. And you got to specify not sorted, so they don't use the formats are sorted, but you don't want them sorted differently than what you showed here. And these are the traffic lighting, and luckily they spell it in the English language: white, red, yellow, green, probably pink and anything gray, different things, different colors you can look at. They probably look at support SAS, and you'll find all the different colors. And also the ODS Excel, you can also look at the style. So I like the SAS web style. It's a little blue and whatnot. So now this is the code. And here we put down the style for the background. Is this the format that we created here, TF? And that's to handle the response rate. And this is, from 0 to less than 0.05. This is 0.05 to less than 0.08. That's how you deal with ranges. With if you don't put these in, it'll be 0 to 0.5. And now this is generating some of the sort of proportional distribution statistics. And a lot of times I suggest you use Q method equals P2 because sometimes with large data sets, it's a little bit difficult to calculate the P1, P5, 95th percentile, 99th percentile in the median. I find it not that much of an issue anymore with 9.4. I guess it depends on the computer you're on. But these are some additional stuff we're talking about. So now we see, again, the thing are now highlighted. The blue is the SAS web style. The style is SAS web. And they have a large number of other styles. You can look at it. Look at the, I forgot the guy's name. He did a lot of stuff on for Tabulate on in SAS, at SAS. And I noticed that this is, why is this red? Because it had to be less than 5%. But if you do the actual calculation, it's like 4.999999. So we had a round statement with 2 decimal places, so I rounded it to 5. Okay, and this was another thing with a missing value as a blank row. Let's see what we got here. And it dumps into Excel. I got 2 tabs. And these are just different references. A lot of papers I wrote in PROC format. I even wrote a book for SAS Press, but they took it off print. I don't know why. There's a lot of other people talking about PROC Tabulate. Wicklin is where you're looking at how to stop using Ranuni function. And SAS is a institute of the SAS product and company, and the contents of this work is the work of the author and do not necessarily represent the opinions or recommendations or practices of any company that I work for. They all get confused by looking at the code as what in the hell is Tabulate? And these are people I worked with for over 30 years. Now, Paul Dorfman had an interesting story that Ian Whitlock told me about. He started working back in, I don't know, many years ago at Citibank in Florida, and he had a meeting with the COBOL code because they had this big project and they had to have a whole year to wrap it up, to go report. And Paul Dorfman came in late for the meeting. He said, well, what's wrong? He said, we need a whole year to solve this problem. He said, I solved it. It's PROC Tabulate. Oh. So they gave him a nickname, SAS Hole, and he sometimes wears that hat himself. He likes that hat. Okay, so any questions? Or hey, yeah, this is my dog who's happy to. I know how to do Tabulate.
Yeah, it's very good. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Let me check the chat. There's some questions about the social media. Yes, we will have the recording and we will publish the recording. That's, I think, on the question side, we don't have anything else.
That's good. So they're still confused, I guess, what's happening. You got to try to use it. Yeah.
Let me ask you a question that I had from me, but I didn't put in chat. Is do you think the function within SAS would you say are the most useful or flexible with your almost 40 years of experience? And would it PROC Tabulate be it, or would it be another one?
PROC Tabulate is useful for a lot of procedures I'm looking at. I do look at the distribution of the data. You could even use that for bootstrapping. So you've done like a thousand models, and you look at the distribution of each of the coefficients, and you could generate the output and tabulate. And I also use the graphics to do the similar stuff, like you do a box whisker plot. But normally box whisker, you have to separate by the class or something. Again, overall result.
Okay. A lot of the stuff that you showed here was from SAS base code. Some of the graphics was again going back to the base state. Now with a VIA CAS and all of those ODS being produced online within the browser. How do you think VIA is impacting the flexibility and usefulness of PROC Tabulate?
I haven't tried. I played around with PROC VIA for like 15 days or something, and I hadn't really tried to set up. I guess the output would go into HTML or even to Excel, but I never seen the Excel output from VIA.
Okay. Well, next time we run a hands-on workshop on VIA, which I think should be very soon, the next one, I'll make sure I send you a link as we hosting the VIA, and we're inviting everyone to participate.
I did have an issue with the VIA. I was looking at time series analysis, but all I got was a time series plot, and I wanted to see what's the actual model results. You know, what variables is there lagging? You know, is there transformations? But I didn't get that output. All I got was the plots. There's probably a way you can score to a model store using PROC PLM, which is a handy PROC too.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, it sounds like you did forecasting in the visual analytics where you just get the plot, but you will need to go into the modeling to do the actual model. Yeah,
because there were nice results, but you know, I didn't know what model was generated.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. They said it was the new versions have the model already created.
Yeah. Salvador just posted another question in chat. Is there any way to perform calculations between variables into a PROC tabulate cell?
You have to give me an example, but you can try to calculate. Yeah, what you can also use is this is an ODS output, but where you could generate the result you currently have. But you'll say you want to do something with different columns. You know, some columns you can do, but you do want to do something additional and more complicated. You could do with the output you generate with ODS output, but it's very complicated. You have to look at it first, what the output is, and then you can play with the results. I've done that a couple of times.
Okay, Salvador, I'm more than happy for you to come off the mute. And has that answered your question?
Probably not.
Yes, I was asking something more related between calculation between two cells. For example, divide one by another cell to calculate a specific ratio or something like that.
Well, we created a ratio variable, which was like the sum of the balance transfers divided by the total number of pieces of mail. So you're dividing up to by 1 million pieces, and that was done using percent sum, but then adjusting for the fact that the percent sum will multiply the result by 100. So you have to make sure you have to reduce that with a multiplier option.
Right. Thank you.
Okay.
Now, I know a lot of people in the pharmaceutical industry don't like this presentation because they can't use this for their CDISC. They have to use PROC report.
Okay.
And there was an interesting paper a couple of times, Ray Pass and somebody else, on what's better. And there was no final result. And I was looking at Tableau, and I think Tabulate can handle a lot of Tableau stuff. There may be some options in Tableau that may not be available in Tabulate.
Absolutely. And PROC Tabulate works in SAS 9 specifically, but do you know if there is an alternative to PROC Tabulate for CAS tables?
For what tables? Oh, CAS tables. Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah.
Okay.
I'd have to try the yeah.
Yeah, and then unless anyone else has any other questions, then let me.
Yeah, when you start playing with it, just start playing with samples, or just generate, you know, obs equals 100 and see how things are coming out. Because sometimes you generate with a larger volume of data, and you want to make sure you get the right code and the right, you know, results that you expect.
Absolutely, yeah. The experimentation is always important. Double check, especially in SAS, semicolon over semicolon, right?
Yeah.
The Absolutely, right. So unless anyone else has any questions, I'll start rounding up. Doesn't sound like it. Like what we mentioned, first of all, Jonas, thank you very much for another great presentation. And it was very interesting, very useful, a lot of detail as always, shows many years of your experience. So thank you very much on that. Valeria very kindly reminded me that indeed we have a next presentation. Next presentation is going to be on the 5th of May. We're going to start as usual, open up the call 12:15, and it's going to be on the topic of CAS. It was related to my previous question asked, and that's going to be SAS programming in CAS, introduction to accessing and using CAS server. It's actually going to be a presentation going to be by one of our guys, Chris. It's actually here on the call. So it's going to talk about the server, how it works. See, Chris, you come off the mute if you would like to say a couple sentences about the presentation.
Yeah, sure. It's, it'll be a sort of a brief overview of the sort of architecture and how to use it and accessing it from various ways from within base SAS and within VIA. Yeah, and how you can interact with it and ways to use it. It's kind of new to me as well, so well, it's new to most people, I guess. So it's yeah, hopefully it'll be useful and interesting. And I'll look up some stuff about PROC TABULATE in CAS, which apparently does work. So there you go.
Excellent. Yeah. So I hope that more experienced people like yourself, Jonas, and less experienced people will find next presentation also very, very interesting, as CAS is a new thing that SAS is rolling out across most of their product estate. On that note, Jonas, again, thank you very much, and thank you very much to everyone else for coming and attending this webinar. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.